Good afternoon, Seattle. Welcome back to Les Freres Heureux, a Frasier podcast with your wonderful hosts, the Happy Brothers. You're always taking a sip of coffee whenever you're supposed to be like...
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I supposed to be saying something?
Interjecting, helping me out with the intro.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we're brothers and we're happy. We're here. We're having a good time. It's almost Christmas.
It is almost Christmas. It is almost Christmas. We have a couple episodes left of this season of the show, and then it's Christmas, and then we're into the new year. Yep. And then we've only got one season left.
Yeah, we're getting
of this show.
Yeah. Only got one season of Frasier left.
Yep. Perhaps maybe a little cheeky announcement before the end of the year to ring in the new year and yeah, see what's happening next. We'll find out, won't we? You'll have to keep listening. Yeah. I am one of your two hosts, Fraser. You were going to take another sip of coffee. I was going to take another sip of coffee.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize what you were doing. You are one of our two hosts.
I am Fraser.
And I am the other of the two hosts. I am Ewan.
Correct. You can take your coffee now if you
Thank
want. You. Yes, we are on disc 3 of season 10. We have had, a mixed road up to this point in season 10. You know, we've had some decent episodes. We've had some less than decent episodes. We've had some absolute divers. And this disc was a pleasant surprise for me. I think it's actually one of the strongest discs we've had in quite a while overall.
Yeah.
I can't think the last time I gave a full disc this high a ranking.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping you agree with me, at least on a couple of the episodes.
It definitely is above average.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's some strong showings. There aren't any episodes that I think are particularly weak. We had a couple at the end of the last disc that were stinkers.
Yeah, really not great.
And we've not got anything as weak as them here, which is nice.
Yeah, we go Return of Lilith at the start of the disc.
Always love to see Lilith.
Always welcome. Some great guest stars.
Yeah,
as well, and quite a variety of guest stars as well.
Yeah,
this disc. Not so many guest callers, but guest stars at least are showing up in force. And yeah, we're kind of building up towards the climax of the season as well. We've got little interjections of Julia, which will take us into our finale, which I'm sure we will have plenty to talk about when it comes to it.
Yeah, we can wait when it becomes very plot relevant, and then we can give our full fleshed out opinions of Julia.
Yeah, and actually into the start of next season as well.
Yeah.
Still got some things to say at that point. A few choice words.
Yeah.
But for now, if you're ready to kick off, we will start off with episode 1, or episode what would it be? 13 of season 10.
Yep.
Episode 1 of this disc. Lilith needs a favor, and that pretty much sums up.
Yep,
the episode.
That's it. That's the
episode. Lilith is back in Seattle. We see her on the plane at the start. She meets a lovely fellow named Albert, although we don't find out his name till later, but played by Brent Spiner.
Yep. Love Brent Spiner.
I love him and Lilith. I think they get along really well. I'll have more to say at the end of the episode, but I think he's a really great guest star.
Yeah, they bounce well off each other. I think they're clearly very similar.
Yeah.
And it's nice seeing them.
So we get a sort of vague understanding of what's going on at that point. Lilith's coming back into town. She's come to ask someone for a favor. That person is Frasier, we find out quite quickly. And she has decided that she wants a little brother for Frederick. She's at that point in her life where she's decided she wants to have another child, and has chosen Frasier to donate because she wants a full sibling for Frederick rather than a half sibling or step sibling or whatever. And Frasier's a bit apprehensive at first. He's not really sure what to do. It's a bit taken off guard, as I think you would be in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, they've been divorced for 10 years at this point, at least. So for her to come in and say, "Hey, I'd like another child with you," is probably a bit shocking.
Field, yeah.
Yeah. But they go out for dinner, and he does decline initially, but she kind of convinces him by reminding him how great Frederick is, and just how great they were as parents, which I think they were. They've done a good job raising Frederick. And yeah, so they decide to go ahead with it. Well, Frasier decides to go ahead with it, I guess. Lilith's already made up her mind. And I love the little scene at the sperm bank, or I guess doctor's office. But where would you do something like that?
I don't know. I would guess.
Would it be somewhere like official,
like a fertility clinic?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. I guess sperm bank's more for just
for donations. Just
for
dropping off.
It's probably a bit more of an official route this way.
Yeah.
And after some nagging and insistences from Lilith, Frasier decides that actually this isn't what he wants. He kind of becomes worried that, you know, this next child might get the worst of both of them, and all the negative traits that Frederick didn't get, or at least isn't showing yet, I suppose. So they part ways, which is I don't know. I would argue that's probably the right choice. I don't know.
Yeah. I definitely think what's implied, I mean, at the very end, we get another scene of Lilith on the flight back home, and she winds up sitting next to Albert again by coincidence, and they start talking, and it's certainly implied that they're going to have a romance. I can't remember if it is elaborated on.
I don't think,
because this isn't the last time we see Lilith, and we do know that if they do have a romance, then it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But it's kind of implied that the reason that she wanted to have another child is just because she kind of, I guess part of it would just be feeling lonely.
Yeah.
Like she feels a bit kind of incomplete. You know, Frederick's a young man now. He's had his bar mitzvah. So she doesn't have like a child. She's just sort of by herself. And it's kind of implied that her getting a new romantic relationship could solve that instead of having
fill that gap.
Another child, or potentially both, you know, getting remarried and then having another child afterwards. So there is kind of the idea that maybe she was doing it for the wrong reasons as well to begin with.
It feels, definitely when she first comes in, it feels very like she says she's thought about it, but you get the impression that she's kind of just made this decision and is going as far with it as she possibly can.
Yeah.
It's not that she's really thought about all of the possibilities, the complications, how realistic it would be for the two of them living halfway across the country from each other to raise another child together, you know. The idea of Albert kind of stepping in at the end there, I'm really sad that this isn't the final Lilith episode.
Yeah.
There's one more episode with Lilith in season 11, which is not a bad episode as far as I remember it. But I think this would be a much better send-off for Lilith. And just having her go off with Albert, leave it with the ambiguity of whether they will or won't, but leave it at that. And then we can imagine that she does go off with Albert, who is by all means a great match and seem to get on well together. Whereas the fact that she comes back, we know that they haven't. Maybe they did have a relationship, but we know that they're not together at that point. Spoilers, I guess, for season 11. But we don't see Brent Spiner again, unfortunately, which is a shame. I think it would have worked better. I think it would work better if they switched places in the show. I think if season 11's episode was here and we had the final episode as Lilith Needs a Favor.
Yeah, I think that probably would work pretty well.
But it's, by all means, it's a pretty solid episode. Anything with Bebe Neuwirth is always enjoyable to watch. Her relationship with Brent Spiner is really... I mean, he's only in it for, a couple of minutes, max. He's only got 2 short scenes at the start and at the end, but he's great. He's one of the highlights of the episode.
Yeah. He's very funny.
Just the way he bounces off them and their little jokes about being very pale and having similar sort of complexion and everything.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the B plot in this episode?
It's weird.
It's a little bit strange.
I don't really think it's funny enough to kind of justify how strange it is.
There's sort of two aspects to it. There's Daphne's away on holiday. She's taken Roz, Alice, and Gertrude, her mum, away on holiday to Canada, and Niles is left at home. Daphne has left some Polaroids of a previous trip. What was it for? I can't remember. It must be.
I think they were talking about they went to the beach.
Or that,
or something.
And they used up the roll, and at the end of the roll is a picture of what the bartender points out as a nipple.
Yeah, the barista. The
barista.
waiter.
Yeah. Where? What did I say?
Bartender.
Sorry, barista is what I meant. Yeah, and Niles, reasonably believes that to be Daphne's nipple, and she's taken a cheeky little shot before she goes off on holiday to kind of keep Niles happy while she's away. We later find out, after Niles carries around that Polaroid with him and does God knows what else with it, that it was not hers, and it was in fact Martin's. He fumbled with the camera while taking a picture of Eddie and
accidentally took a picture of his own chest.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I don't know. You just chilling with his shirt off.
Yeah.
Taking pictures of the dog.
As you do with your top off, taking picture, holding the camera backwards and trying to take a picture
I frequently drop the camera up while I'm lying in bed naked, taking pictures of my dog. It's a standard thing. I can't believe you're not familiar with. That's a joke. Just to clarify. Just to absolutely clarify, that is, I am being funny. I'm not.
Yeah. It's a weird thing to think that someone would, as like sending a nude to someone, just a zoomed in shot of the nipple and that's it.
Not like a proper.
Not just like chest in general.
Yeah. Each to their own, I guess. We don't know what kind of thing Niles
That's
is into.
True.
What they've
Niles
discussed.
Could just be really, really into nipples.
What really So there's the two sides of the plot. The stuff in the car on the trip with Daphne and everyone else in the car, I think is really funny. I really like them all just bickering at each other, and they're not even left Seattle yet. They've stopped like 3 times to go to the bathroom, and Gertrude just screaming because they're on the wrong side of the road.
I like that joke.
Hilarious. Yeah. I think that's really funny. I think the stuff with Niles is just a bit bizarre and creepy. But the thing I really don't get, and I've never really got, is the fact that Daphne tells Niles that he'll really like the last shot on the roll.
Yeah.
Why would he like that?
I don't know.
For what reason? That's what's always bothered me about this, is I don't understand what she was trying to say there.
I don't know.
And she never really clarifies it.
He would think it's funny,
I guess.
I suppose.
I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like a very flimsy setup to a misunderstanding. Like they were really kind of stretching to get that joke. They clearly kind of came up with the concept of like, oh, wouldn't it be really funny if he thought it was a picture of Daphne and turned out to be a picture of Martin, and then they needed to sort of fill in the gaps earlier on in order to set that up, and it doesn't really make any sense.
It doesn't really land. Yeah. The rest of the episode is good though. I quite enjoy it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I ranked it. I think that's my first 4 in a wee while. I don't think any 4s in the last disc. Can't remember. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it. Besides the weird nippleness. Yeah. The rest of the episode I think is great. And worthy of overshadowing the strangeness. How do you rank it? As always, I'm a little bit less generous than you are. So I give it a 3. It's fine. I think it definitely balances out that a lot of the stuff with Lilith is very funny, and I think the setup of like the sperm donation sets up a lot of jokes. Martin kind of joking about like, oh, if she doesn't get it from you, she'll go to Niles, and then she'll go to me, and then Niles would be his own uncle or something like that. You know, it is funny, and I think it does just kind of set up some really good jokes. But then, the B plot, it's not
anything. And then the couple of short scenes that we get with Daphne and Roz and company in the car, they're okay. There are one or two funny lines, but it's overall not anything special.
That's fair.
Yeah, so it just kind of balances out to a 3.
Okay, that's reasonable. I'll take it. Any guest callers?
No.
So.
The only guest really is, we've got Brent Spiner.
We've got a few guest callers throughout the disc, I think. Have you got them?
I've got notes of all the guests. I think we've actually only got one guest caller.
Okay, cool.
In one of the later ones, but the next episode has quite a few notable
number
guest stars. Actually, basically the rest of the disc has at least a couple of notable guest stars.
Well, let's move on then.
Yep.
Daphne Does Dinner is the next episode on the disc. We're dropped right into it at the start of the episode. It is the back end of another classic Crane party. Excuse me. Yeah, I love how this episode starts. I think it's done so well. It's in the little bit of information that you get from everyone. It's so obvious that they've just had another disastrous dinner party.
Yeah.
You can tell everything that happened throughout the night just through all their previous parties, and just a little thing like Frasier pretends to have Tourette's to try and sleep with a woman. Martin has to pretend to be a count. There's goats in the
kitchen. Well, for some reason, there's goats in the
kitchen. The chef runs out carrying the lobsters.
Yeah. We've got the flaming kebabs set fire to somebody's toupee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just it's totally like you can fill in the gaps for yourself for what this episode would have been. And I really love how it's done that, and how easy it is to infer everything that's happened. So it starts really, really strong. And then Niles has acquired a painting, I think, and he and Frasier were planning on showcasing it at another party, but Daphne has encouraged, or it's implied that Daphne has encouraged Niles to host the party themselves.
Yeah.
The two of them at their apartment that is, I suppose, new for the two of them. Niles has been living there for however many years now. So, yeah, Daphne kind of takes over. Frasier's, understandably, I don't know if I'd say understandably, I'd be a bit annoyed, I think. But I think the justification is that it's their first couple party.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I think that would be understandable enough. Depending on what was agreed on beforehand, I suppose. And yeah, so we're then kind of dropped straight into the next dinner party.
Yeah.
With Daphne and Niles hosting. We've got the painting all ready to go. All the dinner's set up. It all seems like it's going very smoothly until little Alice. Roz has brought over little Alice, and she draws over the painting, writes her name on it, which, I mean, could have been easily avoided.
Yeah.
If they'd just been paying attention. But whatever. And that just kind of snowballs into everything else going wrong. Daphne burns the food. The guests arrive early and they're trying to peek at the painting while Roz is off trying to get it restored. The art restorer as well is hilarious.
Mr. Slobodkin.
Mr. Slobodkin. Try to remember the name of Speedy Gonzales.
No, he's a little mouse that goes fast.
And yeah, we get a number of guest stars. I think pretty much everyone who appears as guests of Niles and Daphne are notable in some way or another. We can go over them in the end. And we also get Mike Shaw, who is the painter of the of Niles' new painting that has been graffitoed. Who turns up, and there's a misunderstanding they think that Mike Shaw is actually Martin. At this point, Frasier has arrived to try and save the dinner for Daphne. Martin brings along what are they called, ramekins, which leads Niles to believe that it was actually Martin that had just arrived. While Mike Shaw goes and entertains Gertrude in the bedroom.
Oh, God.
it turns into like a proper classic Frasier farce,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. I think it takes you back to like earlier seasons, with just everything, all the misunderstandings. It hits all the notes in terms of humor, the like recurring gags. I can't remember any of the guest names. I know the actors' names, but I don't know the guest names. He's trying to peek at the painting, and Daphne like rugby tackles him onto the couch. Her coming through and screaming at Niles to stay out of the kitchen so he doesn't find Frasier. Mm-hmm. The misunderstanding with Martin actually being Mike Shaw. It's just a brilliant recipe.
They do, yeah. It works really well. They manage to get like the timing of everyone kind of coming and going and seeing different people. It all falls into place to create the perfect misunderstanding, which is what Frasier always does really well. But it's something that we've not seen, like you say, we've not seen since the kind of earlier seasons.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's a really great episode.
And I guess we've not really seen it since like the Ski Lodge.
I was thinking
maybe?
Ski Lodge is probably the last big one we've had. Yeah. But Gertrude and Mike Shaw falling through the ceiling. They've had a new chandelier installed. Just as everyone kind of as the farce is settling and everyone's ready to leave, Daphne does this big emotional speech about how they messed up, but no, please just stay. We'll all have a good laugh about it later. And then the ceiling collapses and the bed falls to the floor. And she's just like, no, okay, it's fine, just leave. just get out.
Yeah.
And I do like the last line as well when Frasier puts his arm around her and kind of says like, well, it's official, you're now a crane.
And she just starts
like,
crying.
You're officially family,
just starts sobbing
because it's it's the crane curse.
It is, they're
just
cursed. They can't do dinner parties.
I know,
they just can't.
But I think this episode just nails it, honestly. I think it's the first five cupper that I've given for a while. I think it absolutely nails every aspect of the episode. I think the intro is I always remember the intro and how it's done. I think it's just so exquisitely nails what a Frasier dinner party is in like 30 seconds. You instantly know everything that has happened at that party. And I've been complaining a lot recently, well, in previous episodes, about reusing plot lines and reusing old ideas that they've had. But I think this is one that kind of totally turns that on its head and uses that to its advantage. It uses the fact that we know about their previous dinner parties.
That's why they get away with it. Like they set that up and bring these dinner parties back into your head very quickly in the opening minute. And then, they turn on it by kind of saying like, it's about how their dinner parties are cursed. And Daphne says like, well, how about I do it? And then we won't have to put up with the curse without realizing that she's then just totally getting sucked into herself. Which is fun. It works well. So no, I agree. I think this is a five cupper for me as well. This is a very strong episode. I remember this being one that we would go back and watch a lot, because I think it is like maybe the highlight of the season. It's a very strong,
quite possibly,
very strong episode.
Very, very.
To be honest, maybe the highlight of like the last few seasons of the show. I don't think there are many episodes.
Well, this is the first five cupper we've had in a wee while, I think.
I first that we've both agreed on as being.
Oh well, definitely the first five cupper we've both agreed on.
In
quite some time. No, it's great. I really love it. I think it's fantastic. Shall we go through some of the guests? I've written down a few of them.
There are quite a few. So Mike Shaw, the artist, is played by Harvey Presnell, who was in Saving Private Ryan. I think he was a general or something in Saving Private Ryan. He was on loads of things, going all the way back to one of the things he's best known for is Paint Your Wagon, the kind of Western musical with Clint Eastwood in it. We've got the various guests at the party. Anne Cusack plays one who is in A League of Their Own, the film, not because it's got a TV series
out at the moment,
the original film, but she's in The Boys, and she was in Better Call Saul more recently as well. Paul Schultz is another one. He was in The Punisher, Suits, Nurse Jackie. He was in The
24.
Sopranos.
Made a big role in 24.
24, yeah. It's weird seeing him with hair.
Yeah.
Because pretty much since then, he has always had a shaved head.
Yeah.
The Thad and Jeremy, who are playing... I'm assuming they're supposed to be a couple. Thad
It's
and
heavily
Jeremy.
implied.
Maybe they don't explicitly say they're a couple, but you have to assume they are played by Scott Ellis Loring and Matthew Yang King, who are both quite well known for kind of voice work.
Voice
now.
acting, yeah, I noticed that.
Scott Ellis Loring does a lot of kind of like dubbing over over other live action things, whereas Matthew Yang King does a lot of video games actually.
He did,
now
he's in Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah,
he's in Mortal Kombat.
Stuff like that. Yeah,
was quite impressive. Resume.
Christopher Lawford is one of them, who wasn't in a huge number of things. He was in Terminator 3, which came out around the same time as this. Rise of the Machines. He's the one that he and his wife are the only two that see the real Mike Shaw, and then they have to leave immediately, and that's one of the things that kicks off that whole farce. And his wife is played by Nana Visitor, who I absolutely love. She was one of the main characters in Deep Space Nine.
Oh.
She was also she was in the Friday the 13th remake. She played Pamela Voorhees in the Friday the 13th remake, and she was in Torchwood. She played like an American CIA agent or government person. I've not actually watched Torchwood, but she was in a couple of episodes. And there is another little guest spot by Michael Weston, who I really love, who plays an ice sculptor who shows up to deliver the sculpture, and again recognizes Mike Shaw. But he was in House as like a private investigator. He was in Scrubs as a soldier who had like a head injury, had a little story arc. And interesting little fact about him, I think go right the way back to our very first episode of Les Freres Heureux, and we started talking about how John Rubinstein, who plays Philip Hayson in The Crucible, is part of a famous legacy family. He was the son of Arthur Rubinstein, who was a concert pianist. Michael Weston is the son of John Rubinstein.
Really?
And grandson of Arthur Rubinstein, yeah.
Did not know that.
Didn't keep his name. I guess chose to... I don't know if it was maybe by marriage, had a different name or whatever, but...
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But that's really funny.
Yeah.
Maybe he's Philip Hayson's son.
Maybe he is.
Maybe that's why he went to art school.
Maybe that is why he went to art school. Maybe he is Philip Hayson's son.
We're expanding the universe.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Got a little fan
That's
theory.
really cool. That's a Reddit fact. You should put that on Reddit. That's definitely... That's good for a few upvotes.
Yeah. But there you go. Yeah, so quite a few
plethora
guest spots, and they've only got a few lines each. They're kind of just sort of in the background, but
yeah, I mean,
Paul
Schulz
fairly
is
well known.
Probably the biggest interaction with the cast. He's trying to peek at the painting. Thad and Jeremy. Is that right? Thad and Jeremy.
Thad and Jeremy.
Names down, but yeah,
because
they kind of wander around the kitchen and interact a bit and chat with Mike Shaw and everything.
Some people seem to think their names are a joke because there was a double act in the 80s that were called Chad and Jeremy. So I think there are some people think that that's a reference to that. I mean, it's a bit of a loose reference.
Maybe,
I don't know if it's that.
I don't know.
But it sounds just like a coincidence to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of just sort of come in and talk about art and make a joke about how Frasier and Niles are closer than Niles and Daphne.
Stepping out of his shadow.
Yeah.
No, it's this really strong episode. I really love it. It's the first one in quite a while that you're kind of like, this feels a lot like, Frasier 5 years ago. This is very much what we were getting, this quality of episode, of plot, of dialogue, of one-liners. This is what we were getting. So yeah, really love it. Yeah. And the quality does not stop.
No,
at least in my opinion. The next episode we have is Trophy Girlfriend. Niles again has ditched Frasier.
Yeah.
For the second episode in a row, he has gone off with Jim at the squash courts. His new doubles partner ditched Frasier in favor of Jim to take on the new tournament because he's sick of losing. And Frasier kind of understands, I guess. He's sick of losing as well, and they thought they would try it with someone new. Frasier ends up entering the mixed doubles with Chelsea, played by Jeanne Triplehorn.
I would assume Jean Triplehorn.
Jean Triplehorn. She was in Big Love, Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
She had a fair...
She was in Basic Instinct back in the 90s. She was in Sliding Doors.
Sliding Doors as well,
which did have a Frasier
connection
because it was
another tie-in, yeah.
She was in Mickey Blue Eyes with Hugh Grant. It's like a rom-com where the guy has to pretend to be a mobster because his girlfriend's dad's like a mobster.
Oh, I can't say I've seen it.
No, and yes, she's the love interest. It's Hugh Grant's the main character, and she's the love interest, and it's someone else. I can't remember who it is. Someone else famous plays the dad. Yeah.
Robert De Niro, maybe.
No,
sounds like one of his roles.
I don't think it's anyone who's like super mobstery. It's not like Joe Pesci or anything, but it is someone famous.
Okay. But yeah, Chelsea plays a gym teacher in this. Obviously very athletic, very fit, and does squash in her spare time. So the two of them, Frasier and Chelsea, end up doing quite well. They win their first tournament together. It's implied that they go on and continue playing together. Throughout whatever time period the episode lasts for. But in amongst all this, Frasier is kind of reminded of his past history with gym teachers, specifically Coach Fuller from their childhood, from Frasier and Niall's childhood, who they were quite intimidated by and did not have the most enjoyable gym classes with. He used to bully them pretty relentlessly. And as this kind of comes to the forefront, he goes to visit Chelsea at school, which is pretty weird, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty weird. You wouldn't just have a stranger come in to pick up one of the teachers for a date at the school while class is going on.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty weird.
Yeah, what would they be doing? It's like it's like the afternoon.
Yeah.
It's got to be, 3 o'clock?
Something
at
like
the
that.
latest?
Yeah. Just in the middle of PE. And all girls PE as well, by the way. There's something really, like, just bizarre about that. But whatever, it advances the plot, I suppose. And after this, Frasier starts to see Chelsea as Coach Fuller, who is played by Bob Hoskins.
Yeah.
Which is just, honestly, one of the best bit of guest casting.
Yeah.
I think
he's fantastic.
He's amazing in this.
I love Bob Hoskins.
He is. Yeah, you know who Bob Hoskins is. I don't think we need to give his
he's been in so
his
many
filmography. But he's just absolutely wonderful. And it's kind of it's one of the first times that Frasier's done, to my memory anyway, you can correct me if I'm wrong, has done something like this where they're, for majority of the episode, they're showing as a character as another actor.
Yeah, I don't think that's something that's been done before.
It's not even like they sort of switch back and forward. Like, from Frasier's point of view, it's Bob Hoskins, and from everyone else, it's Jan Triplehorn. It's like the whole scene is played out with just Bob Hoskins.
Yep.
Which is hilarious when he's like coming up and hugging Frasier from behind. They have a bath together.
Reading poetry in the bath, and
he's just absolutely wonderful. It's so good. And yeah, it kind of it comes to a head. Frasier realizes he can't. They're lying in bed together, and he can't stop seeing it. So he comes clean and says, when you were yelling at that girl in gym class, it kind of awoke something in me, and I can't unsee it now. At which point they kind of reckon there was never any sort of breakup between them, but they kind of like reconcile their feelings on it, I suppose. And he starts seeing her as Chelsea again. At which point he confesses that he was one of the ones who was always bullied in class by the gym teacher. And the episode ends with her starting to see Frasier as one of her quote-unquote bad students.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We don't see Chelsea again, so it's implied that the relationship probably didn't last long.
Yeah.
But again, this is another really great episode. The guest stars, I think, make this episode. Bob Hoskins and Jan Triplehorn's really good as well. I think her sort of bouncing off Kelsey Grammer's great when they're at the squash courts and she takes on Jim. She stands up to Jim by launching a squash.
Yeah, I do really love that scene. She just like fires it down the hallway, and then you just hear the thud and the scream from off camera. Yeah.
And yeah, the sort of the mismatch between her and Coach Fuller. This juxtaposition, Am I using that right? Yeah. Between the two, I think works really well because she is, outside of her job, she is sort of very friendly, outgoing. Everyone in the family likes her. And then you've got Coach Fuller, who was just implied to be an absolute monster.
Yeah.
All the time.
Smoking a cigar.
Smoking a cigar all the time, yeah.
You know, Bob Hoskins is a lot of things, but like he's not a small guy.
He's not, no.
He's like, you know, the bald head and the...
And he's got the tracksuit.
The tracksuit and like a vest. And,
yeah, it's great. I like that they do something a bit new, with the episode as well. Just the sort of showing that the character with different actors.
Yeah.
I think it works really well. It wouldn't always. I think you have to have something a bit special to justify it, but I think this episode pulls it off in no small part due to Bob Hoskins. So yeah, no, I love this episode. I think it's really great. It doesn't quite live up to the previous episode, in my opinion. I didn't quite give it a full 5 cups.
No, I don't think it's as strong.
But no, 4 cups for me.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know if you agree or not.
Again, I gave it a 3.
3,
slightly less generous. I think thinking about it now, is there even a B plot? I can't remember.
I don't think there is really, other than Niles.
Oh yeah, I guess
being a bit jealous of Frasier because he's
and
struggling with
Jim get eliminated, and Jim turns out to be very mean. And
yeah,
it's like, I don't know. I think there's just not an awful lot beyond the kind of Bob Hoskins stuff, which just makes it kind of feel a little. It just sort of everything else kind of just falls flat in comparison.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't think it's bad. I just feel like there's not really anything more to the episode than just Bob Hoskins.
He's definitely the highlight. He's definitely the highlight of the episode. But no, I like Chelsea. I think it's nice to see a bit of Frasier getting on with his dates.
Yeah.
His partners have not had in a wee while.
Yeah.
And I think it's got a couple of great one-liners as well. I think the line that I always love is when they come back from the competition and Niles is sitting at the breakfast table, and they're sort of saying, "Oh, congrats, Frasier, you won your trophy," and blah blah blah. He's like, "Yeah, well, you know what they say? There's no I in team, like there is in Niles." And he kind of does this really like death stare as he walks across the room towards Niles, and just that one line I think always gets me. It's really great. But no, it's Bob Hoskins, Gene Triplehorn.
Yeah,
good combo. Good guest stars.
Yeah,
works out for a pretty solid episode.
Yeah.
As you say though, it's not a huge amount to it other than that little plot.
Yeah, I think that is kind of that's definitely what lets it down for me. It's just that there's no B plot. We don't really get any involvement from any other characters doing anything other than just kind of being there and pointing out the joke of, isn't it funny that Frasier is seeing it is seeing Chelsea as Bob Hoskins rather than as Gene Triplehorn.
Yeah.
Like kind of Niles making comments like, "Oh, she's very attractive," and Martin being like, "She's very nice. You should hold on to this one," while it's Bob Hoskins. It is funny. It's just a shame that the other that's all the other characters are doing.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I don't disagree with you. I guess move on then.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing.
There's not.
I did make a note that Jim was played by an actor called Jack Brewer. He's not a super well-known actor. It's just I did recognize him from something that I was talking about recently. There was a TV movie that was made. I want to say it was around this time, very early 2000s, which was about the making of the 1960s Batman TV series.
All right,
and he played Adam West, like the young Adam West, which I thought was funny.
And
it's just the fact that I was thinking about it the other day, and then I noticed that he was in it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Jack Brewer
as
Adam West.
Yep.
Would you recommend that documentary?
It is kind of it's quite funny. It's like a it's sort of split in half. You've got Adam West and Burt Ward are both in it as themselves.
Okay.
And there's this sort of fictional setup that I can't remember their names. Frank Gorshin and is it Lee Merriweather that played the Riddler and Catwoman, have stolen a bunch of the props from like the Warner Brothers archives or whatever.
Okay.
So then Adam West and Burt Ward get in like the Batmobile and they're like trying to like track down the props. And then as they're going around, they're like, oh, remember when we like on our first day of shooting, and then it like cuts, and then you get like, and it's like the factual side of it where it's kind of retelling what actually happened.
I've never heard of this. This sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it.
It's called Return to the Batcave.
Okay.
It's actually quite good. I remember watching it years ago. It's very funny, weird, but very funny.
Okay. I'm gonna give that a look later.
If you like the 60s Batman,
great.
I recommend giving it a watch because it's interesting.
Yeah,
hearing about the production and stuff.
I love the campy 60s Batman.
Yeah,
it's quality. Okay, well, shall we move on from Batman?
Yes.
Fraternal Schwinns is the next episode.
From Batman to Bike Man.
That was a stretch, man.
That was a stretch. I'm sorry.
I appreciate the effort, though. I appreciate the effort. So Frasier and Julia are kind of head to head again in our little opening sequence. They kind of inadvertently start a little rivalry leading up to the KCL AIDS Bikeathon, which is presumably just a charity bike ride through the town. It doesn't really go into much detail about the organization of it, but that's what it seems to be. And yeah, Frasier and Julia kind of turn it into a little bit of a bet. She kind of one-ups him when he says he's not going to do it. She says, oh, well, what kind of horrible person wouldn't want to ride for a charity, bike ride? And Frasier just, totally backs himself into a corner and agrees to do it. But then he bets her. Oh, no, well, he bets her at the end.
Yeah, they don't actually have the bet.
Eventually,
on the day.
They do bet each other that whoever finishes last doubles the person first bet, or not bet, like the donations.
Like the donations,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that sort of underlying rivalry for it. However, when we get into the episode, we find out that both Frasier and Niles, something we mentioned before, they cannot ride bikes. They never learned how to ride a bike. Why on earth you would not just swallow your pride and not agree to go for a marathon bike ride? I don't know. I don't get it. Why would you embarrass yourself so much worse by being unable to ride a bike than just admitting that you don't want to do it? Okay, whatever. Despite the premise of the episode, we get a lot of funny little moments of the two of them, Frasier and Niles, learning how to ride, or trying to learn how to ride a bike. They go out at night, the two of them. They knock down a poor jogger. Or it's implied that Niles has knocked down a poor jogger and got blood all over his bike.
There's blood on the lights and
has a little panic attack. And then they try and hide the bikes, which doesn't happen because Gertrude is down having a drink in the basement. It doesn't even elaborate on that. Tell you what, Gertrude's actually been all right in this disc. She's got some great lines. But it's when she says, like, well, what were you even doing down in the boiler room? Drinking. And that's it. It just doesn't elaborate any further. It's like, okay. So yeah, eventually they have to come clean to everyone that they don't know how to ride, and Daphne is going to be the one to teach them. And in fairness, she does a great job. They spend the afternoon down at the park. We get a nice little montage set to the Mozart?
No, it's the Barber of Seville.
Beethoven.
No.
Bach.
No.
Handel.
We'll just move on.
Yeah, we get this great little montage scene, which is, again, another sort of directorial segment that we've not had for a while, and we have very rarely in the show. But it works really well. It's a great little scene of the two of them just kind of falling off their bikes and running into trees and getting overtaken by pregnant women going for a jog and
Yeah.
little girls on the bikes. It's
Yeah. The old guy goes past
the old guy
like a razor scooter.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
It's a really great scene. And then we kind of end the episode with them all going for the bike ride. Niles seems to be the more competent of the two. He seems to actually have learned what he was taught, whereas Frasier passed the test but couldn't pass it in reality.
Yeah.
He immediately crashes as soon as they kick off, presumably losing his bet to Julia as well.
Yeah.
And knowing her, she probably took full advantage of that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But yeah, it's a bit of a up and down episode. I'd think honestly the B plot is probably the highlight for me. Despite we've got the montage and scene at the park and the two of them learning to ride is funny, but the B plot with Martin and Cora, I think it's really sweet. He if you don't remember, Cora was is Cam Winston's mother, who helped Martin out with Eddie, and it led to a bit of a breakdown with Frasier and Martin after they were revealed to be quote unquote dating, and then eventually unquote unquote dating.
Yeah. They pretended to wind up Cam and Frasier, and then they actually wound up getting together.
Yeah. But then we find out in this episode that they broke up, Cora stopped returning his calls, and the reason for that was that Gertrude stepped in and persuaded Cora that she was actually Martin's girlfriend. Martin is understandably very annoyed at this, and kind of cuts her out of his life completely. He just completely ignores her at every given opportunity. But she redeems herself, I would say, maybe by reasoning with Cora and eventually leading to the two of them getting back together, at least for a little while. How long it lasts, we don't really know. But I think Cora's good for Martin. I think they're a nice little couple. Yeah,
they are a nice couple, and it's nice getting her back again, even though we don't see an awful lot of her in the episode. It is frustrating. One of the things that I think I said in The Love You Fake, when the only time we saw Cora before, when that whole thing was set up, is it was kind of frustrating that they set up the two of them starting to date and then just kind of didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then now they've brought her back. They kind of establish what happened afterwards, and then now they're not dating, and then but now they are dating again. And once more,
and they just do the same thing again. Yeah.
They've done the same thing again. This doesn't go anywhere. This is the last time we see her. She's not mentioned again. Nope. She's not. We pretty quickly go to Martin dating other people, and yeah, it's
a shame. I really like Cora.
I find that quite frustrating, which kind of sours it for me a little, to be honest.
I could quite easily have seen her being, a recurring character, like the likes of Sherry. A multi-season relationship with Martin. Yeah, but it doesn't always work out that way, I guess. I don't know. You've got things behind the camera as well that the actor might not want to be signed on for more than a couple of episodes. The writers might have different plans. I mean, they do have different plans for Martin. So I guess there's reasons for it, but it is still a shame.
Yep.
The B plot is probably my highlight, I think. I don't know. The rest of the episode's funny, has its moments, but overall just don't know. It doesn't have as much consistency. It has like the odd moment that is very funny.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the episode isn't.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't balance well for me.
Yeah, for me, I don't think it's particularly interesting, just because I feel like every joke in the episode is just that Frasier and Niles can't ride bike.
Yeah.
That's it.
Pretty much.
That's
pretty much.
There's no kind of like intelligent humor that's like building on that. It's just every joke is some variation on the two of them do not know how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It would be fine if they made jokes like that every so often. I mean, we've had jokes about stuff like that before, but it's not
it's not particularly
it doesn't make the whole episode
it's
fun to watch. So I think, I agree that the highlight is getting a little B plot with Cora coming back and Martin being upset with Gertrude and kind of giving her the silent treatment. Lends itself to some funny jokes, but even then that whole plot is sort of soured by, like I say, the fact that Cora's just written out again.
Yeah. I'm kind of used to it at this point with all of Frasier's relationships. You know, it just they have the relationship, they get together, and then the next episode they're not heard from.
Yeah, definitely true.
It's yeah. Well, we don't have much longer to wait for Martin.
That's true.
And
yeah,
we get
only
a bit
got
more
consistency. So what did you give a rate?
I didn't yet. No, I give it a 3.
Yeah,
overall, because I think there's enough in the episode to enjoy. I think the underlying plot is quite funny. Like, it's kind of finally addressing things that we've been alluded to previously. Things like them not being able to. Well, Martin, there's that joke that Martin says to Niall. It's like, well, if you can skip rope or catch a ball, or kind of trails off, and we realize that they're not really athletic, they're not really physical. They play squash, which is about the extent of their sportsmanship, sportiness, and that's about it. So I kind of like that they're addressing the fact that they don't do any of these things. They never learned how to do these things. It was never important to them, and making a bit of a story about it. But yeah, like you say, there's not. It's very lowbrow humor. That, oh, they can't ride a bike. Ha ha ha.
They fall over.
That's which it is fine. It's just not kind of the quality we would expect from Frasier.
I give it a 2. I think there's nothing in it that's heinous enough for me to give it a 1. There's nothing in it that I particularly dislike. There's just also nothing in it that even brings it up to like the average for a Frasier episode. That's fair. It's just kind of stuck at a 2, to be honest.
That's fair. That's really it. Although, am I right in thinking there's a guest in this episode, or is it the next?
There's a guest caller in the next one.
Next one. Okay.
Right at the beginning, I think.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, then that's where we shall start. At the beginning. What happens at the beginning?
They're at KACL as usual.
Yeah.
Frasier's doing his show. He's doing his thing. There's a caller, Mindy, who is talking about. She's trying to get. I can't even remember what it is that she's calling about. But there's the whole joke that she's at work. She's doing like a catalog.
That's right.
Phone sales, and Roz keeps interrupting to ask about cashmere at $40 or whatever. And Mindy's voiced by Laura Linney, the wonderful Laura Linney.
Wonderful Laura Linney.
We haven't seen the last of in Frasier. She comes back.
We have not. We are yet to see her again.
Yeah. And then that whole thing's rounded out.
That's it. Yeah, I can take it back from here. Fine. So Kenny comes in. He's got a pep in his step, and is happy, or ostensibly happy, because he's finalised his divorce from his wife, who we did meet on the show, actually, back in season 7, 8, 9,
8. I want to say 8.
It's Hungry Heart. Because that's when Daphne goes off.
Yeah.
So it is. It must be season 8. The unnamed Kenny's wife, who we never actually find out what her name was, is they finally got. What was I saying again? Right, they finally got divorced. Kenny's happy about it, but it turns out he's actually really hurting on the inside. He's really struggling. Frasier offers him some help in the form of therapy, and kind of takes him on as a client, I guess.
A patient?
Really? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't last very long, because as Kenny's leaving the apartment, he bumps into Martin, and the two go out for beers, and that turns out to be a lot better a therapy than what Frasier could provide. And that's more or less it for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
Is Kenny and Martin are going out drinking. Frasier's a bit annoyed because Martin took over his patient, and it ends with, I don't know, not really any firm closure on Kenny's part.
No.
He's happier, and then he gets robbed by one of his dates.
Yeah.
Well, dates, I guess. Not. She wasn't really a date if she was just going to
She
rob
was
him
just
anyway,
robbing
but,
him. Just stealing his new suede jacket.
Yeah. But it doesn't really give us much closure. He kind of says, like, oh, maybe I do need to get into therapy. And Martin says, oh, well, you could speak to Frasier. And they're like, oh, yeah, great. And that's kind of that.
That's it.
So there's not a huge amount to this episode. There's a little B plot with Alan Cumming as Amir. What's his name?
Amrit.
Amrit. I knew there was something. The yoga teacher, teaching Niles and Daphne how to yoga, and they have a little sort of competition between the two of them, which Daphne initially wins, and then Niles dislocates all of his bones to win in the end.
Oh God!
I broke my body. I love the way he says that.
One of my ribs has achieved tunus.
No, it's very light on the plot, and as much as I love Kenny, he's a really like lovable character. He's this kind of big bumbling puppy. Like he's just a nice guy. I feel so sorry for him, but I don't really care about him in this episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it focuses a lot more on Frasier being annoyed with Martin and less on Kenny, but I cared more for him in Kissing Cousin.
Yeah.
When he has that sort of mini relationship with Zooey Deschanel.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. He feels a lot more...
Well, like
relatable almost.
They don't even set up what his problem is that he needs to go to Frasier for. He kind of just goes like, well, I'm getting divorced, and then he starts crying.
He's just sad about it.
And then they're like, maybe you should get therapy, and then you hear some stuff like talking about his childhood.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no...
He's just sad about divorce.
You know.
And this that doesn't require therapy necessarily.
Yeah. In Kissing Cousin, they talk about his kind of fear of commitment.
Yeah.
You know, and how he's unwilling to settle down because he's worried that if he settles down, then he'll just wind up getting fired.
Exactly.
That's so much more of an interesting
absolutely.
kind of personality thing that they could be exploring, rather than them just going, oh, he's a bit sad because he's getting divorced, and then just not even talking about that. Yeah. So
I like the stuff with him and Martin. I like that Martin kind of doesn't like him initially, but after they go out for a drink and everything, they kind of get along and have a decent time together. Martin enjoys... I was going to say he's not really mentoring him, but he's passing on bits and chunks of advice that he's used when he was a bachelor. And I quite like those little interactions. And I do like Kenny. But yeah, it just doesn't really do much for me. And it's a bit of a boring... I don't want to say boring. It is a bit boring. Boring's such a boring critique.
Yeah.
But it is kind of boring.
Yeah.
I didn't have the heart to give it a 1, as is my mantra, but I gave it a 2, and it's a fairly mid 2. It's really not deserving of any more, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's still quite a bit below par, or below average, I guess. Being below par is good, isn't it?
Below par is better.
It's below average. I like the B plot. I like Alan Cumming's very funny. I like the kind of just like there's some good jokes of. It's just his whole vibe of him being very calm and very soft spoken, and then he gets on the phone with his mum and immediately starts losing his temper.
I love how chameleon Alan Cumming is. He looks different in literally every single role.
Yeah.
And he's still got the same features. You still recognize him, but he looks so different.
Yeah.
In every single thing he's been in. and I love that about him.
Yeah.
I just love Alan Cumming. I think he's great.
He is fantastic. People have been recommending. He's doing a TV series now, where he's traveling around. I think he's traveling around Scotland.
Oh, really?
It's him and Miriam Margolyes.
All right, yeah.
Are kind of like traveling. They're in like driving around in a camper van or something.
Okay.
And it's just kind of the two of them having a laugh around Scotland. And apparently it's really good.
The banter in those episodes must be top notch.
Miriam Margolyes is so funny. Yeah.
She's uninhibited.
Yeah, she does not care. There is no caring left in her body.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can imagine them being quite funny. Anyway, Alan Cumming's great in this. It's probably the highlight. I really like when Frasier and Martin are sitting in McGinty's and kind of just start talking about like therapy in general and kind of Martin's opinions on psychiatry, and he doesn't really see the point in it. He kind of just thinks that people should be getting on with it, and then Frasier's quite offended that he's like, well, this is my life's work and you just think it's pointless. But there's I really like the joke when he's kind of saying like, well, who do you think actually needs therapy? And it's like Hitler and that woman with all the personalities, Sybil. And Frasier's response just going, Hitler and Sybil. It's very funny.
Yeah. I think his acknowledgement of saying like, it's sort of a generational thing, that therapy was more for people with actual like diagnosable issues, is how he views it, and it's not really necessary for people who are just a bit sad or going through a bit of a rough time. I don't know if I strictly disagree with him. I know a lot of people benefit from regular therapy, and that's fine, but I think there is some truth to, I don't want to say just getting on with things, because you do need support. If you need support, you need support.
Yeah.
But Martin's approach to it, where it's like, you just need a friend. You just need a friend, a change of scenery, and to go out and have a beer. Sometimes that is what you need. And Frasier, I think, doesn't appreciate that it's not always, you don't need to analyze your past. You don't need to, talk about latent feelings or anything like that. Sometimes you just need a shoulder to lean on and to have a chat with someone, So I don't strictly disagree with Martin on this one.
Yeah.
But also I do see Frasier's point that therapy is necessary in a lot of cases. I'm trying to balance both sides here.
Definitely
without
don't want to
across
say
as too too insensitive.
Yeah, I think Frasier definitely does have a tendency to you'd assume that Frasier just thinks that everyone needs therapy to some extent. As soon as they have any kind of difficulties in their life, they need to go into therapy. I mean, he even says it himself, him and Niles, they have a rough breakup around the same time, and they decide to swear off women and go into analysis.
Deep analysis, yeah.
And it's like, come on, just... Yeah. I mean, and, Martin, at that point, at the end of season 6, says, like, you don't need to go into analysis. You just need to get on with your life.
Get drunk, have a rebound.
Yeah.
Move on. Yeah. Well, that is... Which one is that? Kenny on the Couch.
Kenny on the Couch. Did I say it? I can't remember if I said. I also gave it a 2.
You gave it 2.
I gave it a 2 as well. 2. I think we agreed that we're giving it a 2.
Yeah, it's probably the weakest of the disc for me. It's just kind of not up to standard.
Yeah.
Just not up to standard. However, the final episode on the disc, very much up to standard.
Yep.
In my opinion.
I think it's a great one.
One of the most memorable episodes of the show, I would argue. It's definitely one that sticks out in a lot of people's like top 10 lists that I've seen. We have Row to Perdition. That's row as in the fish eggs, rather than row as in row your boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it ties in nicely to Frasier and Niles buying caviar, which is the main crux of this episode. The two of them are hosting a party. They return to Robert's
gourmet
goodies. And they see some caviar, decide they want the caviar, but realize it's too expensive, which is actually a joke. I didn't realize that until just now, but it is actually a joke that we had before, that his stuff is very expensive.
Yeah.
And we get a nice little sarcastic comment from Robert about the fish giving up their unborn children. Yep. To which we're introduced to Peter, a mysterious fella who offers to sell them caviar at $40 a pound?
$40 an ounce.
An ounce.
I think.
Sorry, an ounce. I'm not good at these imperial measurements.
I know.
You were so quick to say I know. I didn't like that.
No, I was.
Or were you agreeing with me?
I was agreeing in the sense that imperial measurements are stupid.
Oh, right,
not in the sense that you are bad.
I thought you were. I thought this was a recurring thing. You were criticizing my imperial measurement.
No, I know that an ounce is roughly 100 grams, and that's kind of what I base that on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know at all.
Yeah,
a pound is
4 ounces is roughly 100 grams.
There's 14 pounds in a stone. Is that right?
I thought it was 16.
Yeah, okay. Now, right, let's move on. We're clearly as bad as each other with this one. So Peter is selling them very cheap. Well, I guess it's very cheap. Caviar, brought over on the Caspian Queen, his Russian cousin's boat. And they're kind of doing it under the watchful eye of the Russian mafia, who are in town, taking up all of the caviar business. This leads to the two of them. Initially, they just buy it for the party, and then they start selling it off to their friends in exchange for various things, invitations to parties. They have like a winter timeshare or something is one of them. Moving the squash lockers away from the showers or closer to the showers, one or the other. All these different favors with different people, and eventually this leads to Peter saying, "No, I can't sell you anymore. This is too much. We're moving too many goods. I'm going to be noticed." So Frasier and Niles take it into their own hands, visit the Caspian Queen, and try and buy, was it £5?
Yeah,
a lot of pounds of caviar from these two Russian fellas, are quickly interrupted by US Customs. So need to get rid of the goods or they believe they need to get rid of their goods as quickly as possible. But no, they were looking for two Russians shifting illegal DVDs, which is apparently more important to US Customs than caviar. I wouldn't have thought that was the case.
They'd probably be equally important. I mean, I don't know if bootleg DVDs are going to be that much more valuable than caviar.
Valuable? I mean, I guess it depends. What DVDs?
Yeah, that's true.
Are we talking Oscar winners here, or are we talking B movies?
It could be Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines.
It could be Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines.
I mean, that...
Shifting 500 copies of Terminator 3. That's worthy of arrest, in my opinion. That's
weapons of mass
destruction.
That's
a crime. It's easily one of the most memorable episodes. Just the plotline itself has this... very much has this tone that it's easy to remember. I don't know how to quantify that.
Yeah.
But it is just one of those episodes that you know and you remember. The boys dealing with the Russian mafia to get caviar is just such a silly plot.
It is.
But it works so well.
Yeah, it's a very silly plot, but I think the fact that it's revolving around caviar as well definitely makes it very specific to Frasier.
It does, absolutely.
No other sitcom could do a caviar black market episode. And I think that definitely lends itself well. It's a very unique concept, not just in the show, but
very much
just in general. No other show could really do it.
Yeah, we have. I mean, it is quite a simple plot. You compare that to the previous episode where we've got a very simple plot. Kenny needs therapy. Here, it's the boys need caviar. But it's done so much better. It's so much more interesting to watch and so much funnier. The two of them just having absolutely no idea how to do business with anyone. When he's trying to haggle with the Russian boy on the ship.
Yeah. I do really like that.
I'll give you 60, 80, 70, final offer, 80, deal. It's just great. Yeah, I really enjoy it. Roz getting addicted to the caviar as well is one of my favorite little, like, it's not even a B plot, it's subplots.
Yeah.
They've introduced her to this caviar, now she can't stop eating it.
Can't get enough of that caviar.
Can't get enough of that sugar crisp. Yeah, she steals it from them at one point, and it's just, total mess. Poor Roz. She's like really like she's
hooked.
She's hooked. Yeah, she's feral for that caviar. Yeah, and we do actually have, aside from that subplot, an actual B plot with Martin and Daphne. Martin has been given more money than he should have at the ATM, and is guilted into Daphne to returning it. So throughout the episode, he kind of gradually has to try different methods of returning the money. It starts off with just trying to hand it over, and then he has to fill out a form and have a meeting. They end up thinking that he is due money from the bank, so he ends up getting the money that he tried to return plus the same amount again.
Yeah.
To which he tries to go back and return it again, but it's framed as like a hold up at the bank.
It's very funny.
And he gets a gun pulled on him by the security officer, and then ends up getting a sort of settlement of $10,000.
Yeah.
Which, I wouldn't say no to $10,000.
No.
At that point, you just accept that
I think
you're getting the money. And
yeah.
I'm not sure, like, I don't know, banks make enough money. I'm not sure I would even return the initial $40.
I'm with Martin on this. When they at first they kind of say like, oh, well, it's bad karma. That isn't your money. You shouldn't just take it. And he says like, oh yeah, I'm sure the big faceless evil corporation bank is going to miss $40.
I know.
I'm entirely with him on that.
Yep.
It's like, these people that someone was talking about it recently, like shoplifting from Whole Foods. Like Whole Foods is owned by Amazon. If you shoplift from Whole Foods, is it actually morally wrong? I don't think so.
No.
I think you could steal from Amazon, and that's not a problem.
Yeah, they've got enough money. It's all good. We're not hosted on Amazon, are we?
I don't think so.
The podcast isn't. No. Okay, no, we're fine.
Actually, it might be. You know what? It might actually be on Amazon Podcasts.
Okay, right. I'll cut the previous bit out then. Just make sure that Jeff isn't listening.
Big Jeff.
Big Jeff. Big Hefe isn't listening.
El Hefe.
El Hefe isn't listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right, so moving on. We do have one guest star in it. Well, two guest stars, one that I recognised. We have Peter, who I don't really know.
He played by John Vickery. Who, not a super well-known actor. I recognized him because he was in Star Trek a few different times playing different characters. He was in Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, playing different characters. But he had a recurring role on Deep Space Nine, which I recognized him from.
Cool. There's also Michael Winters, who plays the bank manager.
Yeah.
Who I recognize from Gilmore Girls.
Yes.
He plays the mayor. Taylor.
What is he? The town.
He's not the mayor. He's like
the town selectman. I think he's called
like sort of
kind of community leader or whatever.
But I always recognize him from that. Probably his most notable role as well. You know what? All in, it just adds up to a really great episode of Frasier. Again,
solid episode.
I think this disc's been pretty consistent, but this is probably. I think I probably like Daphne Does Dinner more individually, but I think this is definitely a more memorable episode.
Yeah.
I think if you're talking about Frasier with someone who's only seen a few episodes, chances are they've probably seen this one. I would say.
Yeah.
I think it's worthy of a 5. I think it's worthy of a full 5 cups.
Fair enough. I didn't quite give it a 5. I gave it 4.
Okay.
I think it is a very strong episode. I don't know if it's necessarily got anything in it that quite elevates it to the elusive 5th cup.
Okay.
For me.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you're saying about it being like a really solid episode. I think the guests are really good. Peter's very funny. A lot of the dialogue surrounding the kind of caviar black market and the jokes that it kind of similar. One of my favorite episodes from whenever it was, seasons and seasons ago, with Jerome Belasco.
Yeah,
the kind of jokes about like the kind of Seattle demi-monde, and like it's very funny, and it works well here as well. I don't know if there is quite anything that's elevating into that last little bit to make it a 5 for me.
The elusive 5th cup.
Yeah,
it is elusive once again. Oh well, that's a shame. I was thinking you would give it a 5 as well, but that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. I think you're right. I think it's definitely not the strongest 5 for me. There are better episodes, but I think this one justifies it.
Yep.
Just. I definitely think it pulls it off.
Mm-hmm.
And that rounds off a significantly better disc.
Yeah,
I think, than the previous 2 in this season. Overall, I think we've got a decent average here. Probably one of the higher averages overall, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. I think probably the strongest average that we've gotten for a disc in the past little while.
Yeah, which is good. Do you have any highlights from this disc?
Particular highlights? I don't actually know if I do. Do you have any that come to mind? Do you want to go first?
I do have one that I want to give it to. I want to give it to the sort of body swap in Trophy Girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Not specifically to Bob Hoskins, but just to the concept of the body swap in general.
Yeah,
I think is played really, really well. I think it's really unique how they've done it. I mean, it's not unique now. I think plenty of sitcoms have done similar things since then, and probably before then as well. But I mean, specifically for Frasier, I think that it's a really fun little change to just like what would the alternative been? Just Frasier and Niles, discussing how Coach Fuller traumatized them.
Yeah.
This gives it a bit more of a physical presence, and the fact that it's Bob Hoskins as well. And to be fair, I don't know her name, but the girl at the end who plays Frasier, I think's really funny, just in her few lines at the end.
Yeah.
Playing this very over the top, pompous, pretentious character is great. So yeah, I just that in general, the concept of the body swap, I think is really fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
you managed to think of one.
Good. Yeah, I'm probably just going to give it to the intro from Daphne Does Dinner.
Okay,
this like jumping in at the end of the chaotic dinner party, and we talked already about why it's quite so funny, but it does such a perfect job of setting up like this is what their dinner parties are like.
Yeah,
we've seen it so many times before. We don't even need the rest filled in. We've just got this, like, you can be thrown into it. It sets everything up for the rest of the episode perfectly. It's very funny.
No, I completely agree. I think it's if I wasn't giving it to the body swap to Hoss Bobkins, then this that would probably be my second choice. So that's fine. Good. And that rounds off disc 3. We have one more episode before Christmas. Yes?
Well, yeah.
What day is it today?
We'll not be doing disc 4 before Christmas.
Oh, will we not?
No, because we'll have one coming out. This episode should be coming out on the 15th. And then we will have a bonus immediately before Christmas on the 22nd.
I thought we were maybe going to do a Christmas episode itself.
Oh, were you wanting to do...
I don't know.
Okay.
The Happy Brothers are having a moment.
We're having a moment.
Discuss this behind the scenes. We'll need to have a think. We have one more episode of this season, and we also have a bonus episode to come out all around Christmas time.
Yes.
So we will organise exactly in what order and when these come out, but I hope you're looking forward to both.
Yeah.
And with that, I think, I can wish you all a great day, good mental health, and thank you for listening. This has been a Happy Brothers podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HappyBrosPod.
All opinions are our own, and as always, special thanks to Leah O'Donnell for the show's artwork.